Well, good afternoon. I'm so happy to be here this afternoon to really share one of my favorite professional women in Washington, D.C. And the title of this interview is Empowered Purpose. So I would like to start with an honor to be able to share Jacqueline in my retreat where I'm going to launch my book, Feminine Hack. And just to share her journey, we have been together for decades in Washington, D.C., which has been amazing. And I asked Jacqueline if she could tell us about her journey to inspire the women that are in this retreat. So, Jacqueline, tell us about your company. Tell us what is your vision and what took you in that direction.
Yeah. Well, my company is, as you can probably see in the background, it's called Sovereign Global Solutions, and it is a public affairs firm which focuses on international religious freedom. And it focuses on a few other things too, but the main inspiration in our company is international religious freedom. So I started this company about 15 years ago, a little more than that. It's like you've known me the whole time. So it's like hard to believe time is flying so quickly. But anyway, it started about 15 years ago, and we worked a lot in this healthcare space and even international global health space. But little by little, I feel like the Lord has shifted my interest and my passion towards international religious freedom. And so what public affairs firms do is work with public officials and also work in the arena of communications and media, but also lobbying the government and educating the government and its actors. So Congress, members of the federal government's State Department, for example, on various issues of concern to our clients. And so that's basically what my company does, and how we kind of came to work in this field. Basically, I got my feet wet in advocacy work for Christian organizations. So I did a lot of lobbying and government relations and so forth, even spokesperson work for different Christian advocacy organizations here in Washington. And then I segued into working for different government officials, including the governor of Virginia and a couple of presidents in their administrations. And so that I had a lot of background and policy work experience and understanding how legislation works and how policy gets made and how decisions are made and people's minds get changed. Public opinion is a big part of that, and that's why public affairs is important. Educating not just the people who are making the decisions, but educating also the public so that they can influence their legislators. Like when the public is convinced of an issue that it's the right thing to do, then they weigh in with their governing officials, congressmen, senators, governors, whatever, and ask them to take that position. And ordinarily, those members of Congress and senators are beholden to who their constituents are, and they have to listen to them. So that's the ideal. And
well, I like to. I admire you for a number of things. Is what I discuss with women when I mentor and coach them. Is that sometimes we go in a direction in our career, in our profession, but we have to honor the gift that God has put in our hearts, and we pivot. So I understand you got your MBA, you're in Washington, D.C. You could have gone in any direction and be very successful. But tell us why you chose to help persecuted Christians around the world.
Yes, that has to be just simply the inspiration of the Holy Spirit. And it's such a huge issue. I think deep in the heart of every person is this longing for freedom. And as a person who grew up in communist Cuba, you know what I'm talking about. That is it's a God-given thing, and we're all created with that. And so communism and socialism and oppression and repression and so forth, those things are so against the human dignity and the inherent drive of a human being that one cannot help themselves but to be against that if they understand the imprint on their own soul that our Creator has given them. And so I think it was at least 10 years ago, and I was at a meeting of international legislators, and we were speaking about the Christians in the Middle East who had been, basically murdered by ISIS, and the fact that that was a growing situation. The persecution had become more or less a genocide, and basically it came clear to me, like, this doesn't really stop unless somebody intervenes. This continues going. This kind of terrible activity, this type of torture and terror against people just because they're Christians or because they have a certain faith, and in some places it's more than Christians, but really, like, I think learning about the human suffering, it just pricked my heart in such a way that I could not. I wasn't happy not working on it. I was going to work on it whether or not I got paid for it. So that's like the thing,
That's that's the key. That's the key. That's when you know it's your heart and your passion and your legacy.
Yes,
And
that's right.
yes, that is. Can you elaborate a little bit for us the efforts that you undertake to advance the cause of persecuted Christians in the United States? What does that effort look like?
Yeah, sure. One more little thing I wanted to say about persecuted Christians so that our audience knows, and I bet a lot of your audience already maybe knows about the plight of persecuted Christians, but there are more than 360 million people who are living in countries in which their faith is persecuted to greater degrees, and some are in the state of genocide. And there are like numerous countries right now who do this. Like China
That's
is
incredible.
it's horrific. And as a Christian, I feel like it should be everybody's passion, because there are our brothers and sisters. And can you imagine if you were one of them? You'd be begging like the Lord to send somebody to save us. And so that really motivates me when I think about it. And I have had so much like one-on-one experience with speaking to those, at least in Nigeria, who have experienced this. So you're asking, your question was like, what are the things that we do, right? Basically, specifically. So
what are the major challenges in the things that you do?
Yeah. Well, one of the things we're trying to do is always get the word out, making sure that it's covered in the news and that this information gets shared. And so, like, for me, I developed basically a listserv to government that even though that's not part of anything anybody's paying me to do, it's just sort of one of the services I offer pro bono to add value and to help the conversation along. And so on our listserv is it's government, media, civil society members, and I basically just take information that I'm gathering, and every month or so send it out to these groups. So I do it so it's not an overwhelming, like, not too many emails that people write me and say, take me off your list. So, but one of the reasons I did that was because when I was lobbying and meeting with people in government, I would always hear this annoying refrain. Wow, I've never heard about this. I can't, is this really happening? I'm like, all the time and everywhere. I mean, like, how come you're not hearing about it? So I was basically like, I'm going to make sure they can't say that to me anymore. So, so I just I grown my lists. And so with every person I meet, I'm like, I add them to my list. I ask them for permission and add them to my list. And then I just make sure that the word's getting out. And I've found out that many people have come to associate me with this subject because of that, and so they come to me for information, for advice, for where are things now, and so forth on these subjects. But what we do is we have done a number of different efforts, like including writing major policy letters asking the president or asking the leaders of the House and Senate to consider passing this or that measure that would help the persecuted Nigerian Christians. And one of the measures that we wanted to get passed was this measure that Congress couldn't pass. They could only recommend it to the State Department to do, and that was to name Nigeria, for example, a country of particular concern. And that is a foreign policy tool that the United States has under the International Religious Freedom Act of 1993. And basically it just says, once you're on that list, once you're named a country of particular concern, you've got a few things that you need to do and clean up before we think of you in a good light again. And it includes, like, it puts them on the list to start doing sanctions, refusing visas, and things that usually embarrass them. Like, this policy is just generally embarrass them until they start acting right, until they start doing the things that protect their people, Embarrassment's a good thing for that reason. So,
That's right.
especially to perpetrators of this kind of evil. And so we do those kinds of things. We do making sure people get on various programs to speak about this, interviews and so forth. We literally go office to office and get meetings with members of Congress, set up briefings on Capitol Hill, get some of our beloved leaders from those countries that are being persecuted to come. Like, we have a special bishop from Nigeria who is willing to be courageous and speak at hearings on Capitol Hill. As a result of it, like, many of his relatives were killed, because he actually was courageous and came to Capitol Hill and spoke about what's happening there. The terrorists basically slaughtered his village. I mean, deplorable things that you can't even imagine living through on a regular basis. Yeah. So, but those are the sort of the things that we do to carry out what we're trying to do. Yeah.
According to your journey, what would you say is the biggest accomplishment so far that you have had in this area?
Well, thanks for asking that, Marilyn. So, on the issue of Nigeria, which we really literally have worked on for about 3 to 4 years, the biggest thing that happened was that the president, kind of out of the blue, named Nigeria a country of particular concern. And this actually did come to us out of the blue. Like, we were constantly asking for it, meetings at the White House, even meetings at the State Department and so forth, because it was really the administration's call to make and whether or not we were going to do that. And they kept talking to me and my colleagues and saying, what about a lesser degree, something lesser than country of particular concern? We kept saying, no, this is the bottom line. You need this to get anywhere. And really, literally, like, I'll tell you, that week that this happened was November. The week that this happened, we had a meeting at the State Department, and my colleagues and I came out of that meeting. They were like, these guys are not going to do this, and they were like all discouraged and everything. And then Friday came, and out of the blue, the president said, made this huge announcement on X or whatever else he uses. Truth Social, I think, and just said, we're naming Nigeria a country of particular concern, and they're going to stop killing Christians. And So that was, I would say that that was huge. But the funny thing is that it, we don't even know what tipped the president over the edge, what exactly it was. Even the people inside, some of them will all say, I really don't know what it was in the end, but I can tell you we've been listening to you and taking your message forward and so forth the whole time. But, what it was in the end that did it, I don't know. But anyway, I just have to say that's probably the very biggest accomplishment we've had so far. So, yeah.
That is amazing. That is totally amazing. I tell women all the time, like the women of the Bible and the
Yeah.
women across history that have made a huge difference in regiments and in people's life and all of that. And to see that in you in the 21st century really, really inspired me. I almost have goosebumps of what you did in this particular situation because I know how difficult that is for a woman
Yeah.
to be so persistent, but not lose your purpose.
No, I was gonna say just thank you. I mean, and I just also would shout out to, like, it was not me alone, but in some circumstances it was me alone, but
Yeah.
there were numbers of us who kept beating this drum. And honestly, the work continues because that label came forward. The perpetrators don't listen to the law, and they still create a lot of havoc. But so we're going to be working on this for a while. But it was still and yet enormous to get that
Yes.
success. So
It's incredible. Now, can you please share with the women at this retreat what would you want to leave behind for the women that are here when we face challenges, when people say no, when our voices are not heard?
yeah.
Tell us about your experience with all those challenges as a woman.
Yeah, I would say this. If you know in your heart that what you're saying is true and right, and you stand by it, keep beating the path, beating the drum, whatever metaphor you would like to use, because eventually it's going to make a difference. This is like replete throughout history with there's so many examples. This one example that I'm giving you now is just one example, but there are so many examples like this throughout history where, up until the last second, you didn't think it was going to happen. But what happened was all of this time, the pressure has been building in the right direction. And if you just, with confidence, stay the course, I am convinced that that is the way to go. And especially when you feel convicted in your heart and you know something is right to do, just hang in there, stay the course, and don't give up and persevere through, because there are many setbacks. And sometimes some of the hardest setbacks, I think, are when you have infighting, when you are all with the people that you should be aligned with the people that should be on the right path with you, and they kind of are, but they don't like the way you're doing it. Or maybe they just actually wanted the limelight and you got it. So now they're going to try and deep six all your efforts. I've seen it all, like even in this campaign on that we're talking about right now. And I'll tell you, at different times I was, furious or upset or sad or, whatever. But this is where it comes in. It is so important to have good people around you, like that remind you of the truth, that point you back to the Lord, that
Yes.
keep your head straight. And the bishop from Nigeria that we were doing all of this work with, he became sort of like the international model on this for this issue. He was with me when we were getting these kind of crummy messages from people that were like causing trouble within our group to try and get this thing done. And he just said, and I can't imagine, like, this man has been through hell, like seeing people slaughtered and having, thousands and thousands and thousands of people from his diocese slaughtered, um, and he just kind of encouraged me, and he just was like, the Lord has not brought us this far. I feel like we're on track. We're going to, with his help, this is his project. This is his project. We're going to do it, and we're going to avoid these bad guys that cause problems. And that's what we did. So anyway, but it was, you have to be with encouraging people too. Nobody's meant to fight battles all alone.
Indeed.
We need each other. We need each other.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's one of the key messages. And that's why we are in this retreat together.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that's the main point. We need one another. And when we encourage one another and support one another, we can really fulfill the purpose that we were created for. Mm-hmm. And that is awesome.
That is right. That's right. Absolutely. So,
well, I don't want to take a lot of your time. I know you are an amazing, super busy and going to Europe, etc. But I'm so grateful that you share with us. Yes. And I'm sure a lot of people will be amazed with the story that you just described for us.
Well, I can't tell you how grateful I am to have you as my friend, Marilyn. And I so appreciate your support, your encouragement, and giving me opportunities like this one with your team. I wish I could be there, really and truly. I wish I could be there with you. And I know that they get to have beach time after this is all done. So, so enjoy it for me.
Absolutely. Especially, I know you love Fort Lauderdale.
I do. I gotta get it on the calendar. So anyway, well, enjoy, everybody. So yes, thank you for having me. It's been an honor. Thank you.